Boarding schools was something that was created by our early American government, and they felt that in this country that we should become one people, that we should forget about who we are, forget about where we come from, and all just become one, I guess, one group of people with the same thoughts and same views. And that's, to Indian people, that was asking a lot, because they were asked in their culture and in their way that they believe that their way was given to them by the Creator. And to throw away those gifts that the Creator gave to you was devastating to Indian people. And I'll give you an example. My father was only 5 years old when he was forced to go to the boarding schools. And he was forced, and they took him to the boarding schools. And he said that when they went to that school, he says they weren't allowed to see their moms and dads. And he said the older kids had to take care of them. And among Native people, if you notice, I have long hair. Each length of hair represents my family. And the only time that we're supposed to cut our hair is when we're in mourning, when we're sad and we lose somebody. And so you can imagine what it was like when they were cutting the hair of these kids. It was difficult, because when you were cutting your hair, it's like, did your family die? Is that why they're cutting your hair? What was it? Is there a loss? What happened? So that was really traumatizing to the children. And my dad said that when he was in boarding school, they made him wear the same size of shoes every year. And because I asked him, I said, Dad, what's wrong with your feet? How come your toes are twisted? He says, we had to fit our feet in little tiny shoes. And he says, our feet was twisted. And he said that they were spanked or hit, and especially hit with, like a stick when they tried to speak their language. And they were marched. He says, I felt like I was in military. He said, I had to get up to a bell, I had to dress to a bell, I had to eat to a bell, I had to go to school to a bell, I had to go out and work. They made the little kids work, everyone work at those boarding schools. The boarding schools was a very traumatic experience. And imagine if you kids had to leave your moms and dads at 5 years of age, and you weren't allowed to return home until you were about 16 years old. If you can imagine that. And it really impacted Native American people.
My aunts had attended Sherman boarding school, and of course my mother is the one who would tell us the most about that. And she went at a very young age. I don't know what exact age she was, but she was in the smallest dorm for the smallest kids, and they would spend the year there, school year. In the summertime, she would come home, and she said that if she hadn't had the experience of coming home and having the people, I mean her parents, speak the language, she would have lost it, because she couldn't speak when she came home. And then by the end of the summer, it was right. I guess she picked it up again right away, But since they weren't allowed to talk, now my cousin, who was actually older than I, passed away about 3 years ago. His name was Robert Levi, and he learned music at Sherman. He played instruments, he played the saxophone, clarinet, valve trombone. But he was so good that he would play professionally, locally, and played for one of our school dances. And that's the first time I ever saw another musician. I played the saxophone, so I was observing him play, and all of a sudden he got up and played a solo. And in the dance bands, they're in the 50s. They played the swing music, big band music, and there's always a place in the music where the sax or a different soloist come. Yeah, and he plays a chorus, as they call it.
Wow.
And he was really good. I was just impressed, and I told my mother. He said, "Well, that's your cousin," and I met him later in life. But he uh, remembered the school song for Sherman, and gave it, and knew the words, and gave it to the recorded it for the museum there, Sherman.